What's up everybody, it's Matt from Peter Glenn, and in this video we're going to show you how to lace up your boots properly. Let's check this out. So obviously having boots that fit is the most important thing when it comes to your snowboard gear, but knowing how to lace them up properly can make a big difference as to whether they fit right or not. And when it comes to the different lacing systems, there definitely are some little things here and there that can actually make it a little easier to get into your boots. Starting off, we're going to do the pull string systems of this Burton Speed Zone system. So this one is very easy. When you basically get your boots out, you want to pop the laces forward so they're not inside the teeth, because those are the things that hold them in all the way. We want to loosen these things up as much as possible. And then obviously pop your foot into the boot. Make sure that your foot is down all the way. And when it comes to any of the boots, we want to make sure that our sock is out of the top of the boot. We don't want anything scrunched up inside there. Also with all of the boots, we want to make sure that we have the liner and the tongue nice and snug against our feet, whether there's Velcro, whether there's a strap that goes around there, just anything to make sure that the tongue is sitting properly. Any weird seams in there can cut off circulation and make your feet not only uncomfortable, but also make them cold. So most of the boots are going to have this internal lacing system on the inside. And again, this is going to be something that's going to be the same for all of the boots. And basically you just want to go ahead and pull that thing as snug as you like it. It doesn't have to be crazy tight, but get it to a point where it actually feels good and it's not cutting off your circulation. Now when it comes to the pull strings, the one thing you want to do is kind of give them both a couple little tugs just to make sure that there's no overlapping. As you can see, these two laces in the middle here are actually overlapping right now. So we just want to make sure that those are nice and straight and that nothing is actually getting stuck underneath. The laces aren't getting stuck underneath themselves. Now when it comes to these systems, they actually do have two zones. There's a lower zone and an upper zone. On the Burton boot, it says right on the pull strings, it says upper zone and lower zone. So I always tell people, do the lower zone first. So the nice thing with these pull strings is there's teeth right in the side of this locking mechanism, and all you have to do is pull it straight up. And as it goes up, it slides through the teeth, but the teeth are directional. So when you let go, it can't slide backwards. Just go ahead and grab those strings and pull, and the bottom's tight. And then you're gonna do the same thing with the upper of the boot. Pull until it feels snug. Now the nice thing about these systems is that you can pull on this thing very little. You can pull on it a lot. You can use both arms. You can actually hold it and use your legs, so you can get all the strength you need to really fine tune how it's gonna feel. If you find that you did pull it a little too tight, basically just grab it, pop it forward a little bit, and then drop it back into the teeth. And then if you need to tighten it from there a little bit more, go ahead and adjust. But once you've got that nice and snug, you basically just slide that into the pocket. I like to wrap the strings around it too, just to keep it a little neater, and you're ready to ride. All right, so next up we're gonna look at boa boots. And these are very similar to the pull string boots, although some of the boas only have a single boa that tightens the entire front. But a lot of them are gonna have a double boa system, so you're gonna have one on the front, one on the side. Now the side does the lower part, the tongue does the upper part, and sometimes these boots you might actually have little variances. There could be a boa that does the whole front of the boot, the Ride Lasso Pro for instance. The boa on the side is a crank a part that's around your ankle on the inside of the boot, and then the one on the tongue actually does the front. But for the most part, most of these systems, they're going to have a upper and lower adjustment knob. But if it does have that single boa system, you're basically going to push the boa in just to engage it, and then you just go ahead and turn it and crank it until it's nice and snug. If you do have a dual boa system, similar to the pull strings, you're gonna wanna make sure that all of your laces are not overlapping and they're not stuck underneath anything, but you're gonna wanna get both of your boas engaged. And then I always say to, again, do the lower part first, start cranking that down until it feels snug, and then do the upper part. And these things have a really high gear ratio, so it's really easy to actually crank them down tight. With that high gear ratio, it's really easy to get them too tight. So if you do find that you've cranked your boot down and you got to the point where you start moving your foot and you're like, that's a little too tight, the nice thing is you can really just reach down, pop it and push it back in, and then it'll loosen it up just a little bit. And usually you're gonna give it a couple cranks from there just to get it to the point where you feel like your boot is good. All right, and then next up, we are gonna do standard laces. So this is still one of the best ways to lace up a boot. You can really customize how this thing feels with the lower, middle, and upper zones. But pretty easy. We all know how to tie our shoes, and it's the same thing. But when you are pulling these things tight, one thing you can do is grab that lower section and give that a nice pull and get it set to where you like it. And you'll notice that when I let go, these lace loops actually kind of pinch and they grab a hold of the laces and they don't come loose. So that's why it's nice that you can customize the laces, that you can actually pull one set of lace loops really tight and then leave another set a little bit looser. So once you do have that lower part set, now what you do is cross the laces and then go ahead and grab them and give them a pull. Now the nice thing about this is that since they're already crossed, when you get them nice and snug, you can hook them around those next lace locks. And you'll notice that when I let go of it, that ankle part actually stays nice and tight. So it's locked that into a position where it's holding your heel down in. Now from there, you basically kind of lace the top, very similar. Cross the laces, give them a pull, hook them on the next lace loops, cross them up, give them a pull, hook them on the next lace loops, and then tie your boots up. And the cool thing is with all of these lace loops and with these lace locks and the speed laces up top, this boot is gonna stay exactly in this same spot all day long. It's not gonna loosen. And then also going back to that customization, the cool thing about this is that we can actually loosen up the top of the boot, and then instead of pulling it really hard, you literally just kind of loop them around nice and easy and then tie the boot. Now the cool thing about this is that now I've made the top of the boot feel a little bit looser and a little bit softer, but we're still getting all that hold down. So you're getting proper heel fit, but we're actually just made a stiffer boot feel a little bit softer. And then last up, we have hybrid boots with the standard lace and with that boa on the side. So the boa on the side, it's really there for extra ankle hold down. Having your heel held down and eliminating that heel lift as much as possible is the most important thing. If you ever get pain in your calves, in your arches, or in your toes, that's from trying to keep your heel down inside a boot subconsciously. When you're carving toe side carves and your heel's lifting, you're utilizing all those muscles to try to keep your foot down inside the boot. It can really be painful by the end of the day. But when it comes to the hybrid system, it's very similar, obviously, to lacing. But one thing I always tell people is engage that boa, and then you're gonna crank that heel down a little bit. Don't get it to the point where it's super snug. Like this Vans boot here, they actually have this piece where you can kind of customize where it sits. But basically get that thing set to the point where it's not quite snug. It's just basically on the point where it's not sticking up, because we don't want that to get in the way of our lacing. Sometimes the boots will actually have a system that goes over the liner, so you don't even have to worry about that. Sometimes it goes through the tongue of the boot. Go ahead and lace up the boot now. Now we're gonna lace up the boot exactly the same way that we laced up the regular lace boot. Cross, pull, hook, cross, pull, hook, and cross, pull, and hook. And that way, once the boot is tied up, it's gonna stay there all day long. Now we reach down to that boa system and we're gonna go ahead and crank that down until you're feeling your heel locked in all the way. Now, one thing is that you don't have to crank this thing down super hard. If you feel like your heel's being held in and you haven't tightened this thing up much, don't touch it. The more pressure you put on your foot, you can cut off circulation and make your toes feel cold and just make your foot feel uncomfortable. So only get it to the point where when you go and try to lift your heel up in the boot, it's not moving, and then leave it there. So as you can see with all of these lacing systems, they are all very easy to use. And knowing these little tips and tricks for each lacing system can definitely make a big difference to make sure that that boot fits tight and stays snug and stays comfortable on your foot. Literally can be the difference between you wanting to get your boot off at the end of the day or just taking your boot off at the end of the day. But if you got any questions about these or any of the boots that we have at peterglenn.com, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that you can get it laced up properly too. Also make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. Grab yourself a new pair of boots, get them laced up right, and get out and ride. Because any day of riding is a good day of riding.